Okay, so for this final review session, I just thought I'd sort of work through the different readings that I assigned right at the end. It wound up being sort of a little flurry because you guys were doing mostly discussion and online stuff at this point. So the real review is probably going to happen with you guys just making sure that you're up on the readings, since they just happened in the last couple of weeks. This would be mostly post spring break stuff. So I'll just go over this really quickly and maybe tell you a little bit about what you should be responsible for. Um, so I'll leave off the formal lectures at um, the family, the harmony, the myth of family. But I will say that what we really miss about the 1950s is a natural follow-up to and I'll just bring it up here just so that you have the reading. I don't have the fancy little slides for this. But what we really miss about the 1950s is helpful in that it's a bit of a companion piece to the last one that we talked about. Um, Harmony at Home, sort of that introduction, and then the sort of the breakdown of the family structure, and then the obviously the subjective, when should a child be taken from its parents, the point of view one. This one balances things out a little bit because it has a lot more information maybe, even though it is pretty, it is very accessible. So I don't think it'll be too hard for you guys to recall some of the stuff from this if you need to. And again, my questions are not necessarily always going to be directed to, make sure that you answer this question on this particular reading. It's going to be trying to tackle and, make a little bit complicated some answers to how you can use the sections themselves. So some of you that actually, maybe even you did a presentation on this and you're really familiar with it and you really want to use it, there will be an opportunity for stuff like that. Okay, so nothing is wasted, but I will say that what I review here are probably the ones, if indeed I do reference in the final, the ones that I cover here are probably going to be the ones that I wind up using. In that context, at least in terms of you understanding questions that I give you. So this one, what we really miss about the 1950s, is a good one. And I'll just go through this. That works really well with Harmony to Home, and a little bit, if you think about it, if you squint a little bit, it works pretty well with the when should a child be taken from its parents. Selling Miss Consumer probably won't draw too much from that because I only had you guys read sort of we only highlighted really a small part of that. If I do, it'll just be about trends. One of the things I like about that particular essay is just sort of how it talks about the trends in the 80s from the perspective of sort of a TV show executive. So if you recall that, probably just reading the first half of that would be, reviewing the first half of that would be fine. Because I'll probably draw mostly from the first part of that. How immigrants became the other is interesting as well, and by interesting I mean I'll probably look at it. It's about immigration, and we're back to the old idea of nationalism, and maybe even connecting to the Fourth Amendment. But it does talk about I don't know if I talked about that particular topic to the extent that about how it works with family structure. But I think this is when we're starting to move sort of in that post, the PSyche kind of idea. Big data, Google, and free will, that definitely applies to the psyche idea. What I liked about the immigrants became other, if I could just take a step back before I get to that one and sort of my imagination when I was connecting these, that last part, the other, the otherness of it, I think the reading itself is pretty, if I recall, it's pretty user friendly, but its point is is pretty maybe obvious to some of us in especially in U Puente people, because I'm recording this for both the classes. But yeah, especially in terms of the Puente stuff, we talked a lot about this, but it's really helpful to know sort of how the nationhood of America and how families affected by these different perspectives of immigration. So in this way, this is the othering part of it was probably the most interesting part, the most direct connection. The family part connects to the previous section, perhaps. the big going back again to the big data, Google, and free will. What to recollect? Probably won't draw too much from that unless you really want to talk about storytelling. I may have a question option on that, but I don't have it fully formed in my head. But there's going to be a series of questions that you're going to be drawing from. So that could very well be something that I return to. So you might think about that in the abstract, but since it has a lot of really heady stuff related to topics that circle around the reading ceremony that we didn't wind up reading, I will probably just attach both of this and the lullaby to a general question, maybe on storytelling. But big data, Google, and free will. I linked you to an article online here, but it is also in the book. Um, Review this if you haven't already, because it's really interesting. It gives some ideas about free will and sort of how our psyches are developed. I think it broadly connects to the other issues that we've been talking about before, probably most specifically, that culture and subculture section, and then kind of also actually quite a bit with technology and identity. So this is a good article to connect those earlier technology and identity art sections with the culture and subculture sections. So yes, definitely a good one. I kind of like this one. So I probably think this could be an easy one that you could use to connect those sections together if you do draw from earlier readings. Okay, so let me see if there's anything else here that I think you guys should be looking at. These are just prompts and stuff. Other than just going back and and looking at that critical reading and critical thinking stuff, and maybe even just reviewing all of this, because you never know, you might be able to reference some of this. You're going to have most of this stuff in front of you, as is. So I just thought I'd direct you to, if you do want to reference some of those earlier ideas, like in the first couple of weeks, as sort of a basis for discussion in your responses. These would be good things to go through. But other than that, I mean, just keep an eye out because I don't mean to make you dizzy, but I'm just kind of looking around to see if there's anything else that I want to make note of before I let you guys go. House on Mango Street, yeah, it's again, if you attach it to the idea of storytelling, it's interesting. It's interesting to reference. But those fiction pieces like House on Mango Street and Whimper of Whip Dogs, their work. Their work to get to, at least as far as making connections. So you want to make sure that you're aware of that, and I'll go ahead and publish that too, because there's no reason not to put that there. Okay, so I will see you guys later, and I wish you guys luck. Hopefully these sessions have helped you. They've been interesting for me. I don't mind talking to you guys, and even to myself. Just seems like that's what I'm doing a lot of the time. So I'll let you guys go, and hope to see you guys soon.